over here on the left side of the screen is the actual mobile platform of Case Status and what it's going to look like specifically for your client. This is my actual phone, just letting you know it's a live experience there, but I want you to get a good feel for what that is going to look like from the client end and the staff perspective. Hopefully you've noticed through the application that we have it's actually going to be firm branded, so it will have your firm logo, your firm color scheme on both the app and our mobile platform or our web platform, so that it truly becomes this extension of your firm. It's a great differentiator, especially if you're in an area where there are a lot of personal injury estate planning cases or firms out there. And so a great way to really set yourself apart from the competition. And it's truly an experience that clients really are not getting everywhere else, especially in the legal field, right? You can track an Amazon package, you can track a Domino's pizza, you can do, complex banking transactions on your app. Why can't you follow your legal matter? And so it's giving clients this access that they've never truly had before. I think a big key to the actual application and why it works so well with CASEpeer is the adoption. And so right now we're currently seeing around a 70 to 85% adoption through the Case Status mobile platform. And a big reason for that is just how easy we want it for the client to download Case Status. And so a client gets a very simple text message letting them know that Case Status is here. You're welcoming them into the platform. They get a link via text where the client downloads the app. They enter their cell phone number, a verification code, and that is it. So making it extremely simple, extremely easy. There's no need for them to log in with a username, a password, any sort of extra credentials. They may not have access to a computer. They may not remember those credentials, but they definitely have access to a cell phone or a smartphone, especially nowadays, right? And so a very easy way for them to log in, very secure. The other 15, 20% of people that are not downloading Case Status are still going to receive every single message, update, document, image, anything via text. And so they're still going to be able to text you right back and forth. All of those communications are coming back into the platform and then coming here into CASEpeer as well. So really providing clients, again, this access. And as you can see from the application, really answering that number one question, right? What's going on? What's my status? What's happening? I can see that I'm on this auto accident case, right? The case is here created in CASEpeer and also in Case Status. I have a checklist item here, which we're going to talk about here in a second. I can see my current status, which is treating, where it's off of the intake piece here in CASEpeer, which again, we're going to talk about in more detail. But I can easily see here what's going on in this treating phase of the case. We appreciate you for trusting us to handle your case. Here's a link to our welcome video, giving me, the client, a nice overview of what is happening on the case. And then going off of CASEpeer, showing the client what you want them to essentially see. We have, there are stages in CASEpeer that may be more internal. Client doesn't necessarily need to know every single update. And so this is exactly what you want the client to have access to as far as the journey. A client has a nice view into their current status. I'm on stage 1 out of the 6 stages. But if I wanted to see my journey from start to finish as the client, I could easily go into this process tab and see, hey, I'm on treating. If I wanted to look ahead, I can see 2 is released from treatment, 3 is attorney review, 4 is negotiations, 5 is settled, 6 is escrow, and then case closed. And so walking through this with your client so that they have this one-stop shop, they have this peace of mind, and really building this muscle memory for them to log in as opposed to calling in, right? And then more importantly, setting the expectation from day one. This happens every single time, right? It's very, very common for firms to answer a phone call, answer the actual question and get that same phone call tomorrow because they forgot what was said, right? And so they answer it again, and then this becomes this back and forth, this phone tag game. And so Paul kind of hit the nail on the head there, where we're really decreasing a good amount of these unnecessary phone calls that really eat up at your day-to-day. Giving them this kind of one-stop shop. And again, just that efficiency that they've never really had in one safe location. Now, we want to make sure that as we're updating a case in CASEpeer, that gets automatically triggered into Case Status. And so we're actually going to be going off of these actual stages that are already built into CASEpeer so that you can map specific stages to the actual triggers in Case Status. So if I move this case to pending assignment, just for the sake of this example, I'm going to move it over to pending assignment. I'll make a change here on the back end in Case Status just so that you can see what it looks like in a live scenario. But you're going to be able to see here that as the client, I'm going to get notified that I've moved on to the next stage of the case. And then I just got notified here, I'm on release from treatment because that's what I've set up as the actual automation to move pending assignment to release from treatment in the platform. I get a notification via the messaging and a push notification via the app. And as I mentioned before, if I don't download the app, I'm still going to receive everything via text.
And
so making it But Kim?
Jose, firms can set that up during onboarding, right? They'll work with your team and say, hey, we want these stages to funnel to these stages in case status. So, again, as
That's
you
exactly.
mentioned, there's key phases that you want the client to see, all the other background work you don't need to, but all of that's fully customizable once they're in onboarding with you guys.
That's exactly right. And I'm glad you brought that up, Gabriella. We want to make sure that we're a partner as we go through the implementation piece and look at your journey, your practice areas, and help establish what you want those stages to essentially look like. So when we're turning on the integration, we're obviously going to be able to grab the actual case types that are from CASEpeer, but just know that you could always create practice areas and journeys in case status and essentially use any sort of templates that we offer. You could edit the stages, edit the descriptions. We can support up to 12 stages in case status. You've kind of seen the example there on the application where we could add any sort of links to, welcome videos, to YouTube material, to the actual, FAQ page, so that you guys let us know, what you want your stages to look like. We'll obviously be there as a resource to help, but then make sure it all is aligned with your CASEpeer account. So I like to look at this as really, from a day-to-day perspective, if most of the day-to-day just happens to be updating the status, messaging back and forth, which we're going to get to here in a second, then really most of it is going to remain in CASEpeer. We want CASEpeer to remain that kind of single source of truth, but taking advantage of that horsepower that comes from case status by providing this ultimate experience for the client, right? As we're setting up stages, and Gabriella kind of touched on this, where we're creating these stages for you, you're creating the stages to make sure it fits your journey. We're going to be creating a lot of automation to work in these actual stages of the case as well. So really creating automation so that it's working for you in the background, right? Automated templates like the no case change, the famous no update that is very familiar with all firms out there, right? It gets triggered if there's nothing to report, if nothing has happened. A client could essentially get this message weekly, monthly, twice monthly, letting them know, hey, we're working on your case, no updates to report. If you have any questions, message us on case status. So this becomes this nice safety net, a nice backup where firms tend to have maybe a 30, 60, 90-day check-in call. This is ultimately here as a supplementary piece to that manual phone call, maybe even replacing some of the actual phone calls, because clients will get this touch point throughout their case. Now, we want to make sure we don't sound robotic in any way when it comes to these automated messages. The last thing we want is for a client to easily tell that this is an automated message. And so we set up these automations so that as we go to different stages of the case, if I'm in stage 2, for example, or if I want stage 2 to say something slightly different, then I can select release from treatment and I can change the actual automation to say anything I'd like, so that it comes across to the client as this nice personal touch. It's a different message. It may be a different time frame. Maybe that there are cases or stages in your case that go on for a while, so we may have it go a little more frequently, but really using this as a nice efficiency piece, knowing that a client is going to get a touch point. And that's how it goes with PI sometimes, right? Sometimes there isn't, a lot of times there really isn't anything to report. You're still working on the case. And so making sure that the client has that nice touch point is going to go a long way. We have automations for recurring messages. We have treatment reminders, right? Gabriella kind of hit the nail on the head there as far as tracking treatment and just kind of the things that CASEpeer focuses on, which really sets them apart from other case management platforms. But we want to double down on that, right? Add automations for tracking treatment. A very simple, did you get treatment this week? We have date-based automations where we get the date of birth from CASEpeer and we send a simple happy birthday message, right? Those little things that really go a long way. And then checklist templates, which we're going to go over here in a second. And then just single message automations. I want one message to get sent to my client this one time that says this one thing, so that you're letting them know that now that they've moved, they're going to get an update, letting them know more detail. And so really setting the stage for the firm to really be as efficient as possible, really maintain that day-to-day in CASEpeer, but creating these automations to, again, really work for you in the background. So I'm going to show you what it looks like as I've updated the case in the case status platform, because Paul had mentioned this idea of tracking client satisfaction. So we want to be able to measure client satisfaction throughout the entirety of the case. That's really what I would say kind of sets us apart from regular, texting tools or other portals out there, or kind of is a step up from kind of more of the antiquated system of sending a review maybe at the end of the case. The way it works is as a case gets updated, your client is actually going to be required to rate their experience from a 0 to 10 net promoter score. So I'll make the change here internally in case status just so you have a general idea. And again, for the sake of actually showing it to you on the spot, I'm going to make the change here. I'm going to get notified on the app. I'll close down the app really quickly. And that is the trigger, is when a case actually goes from one stage to the next in case status. It's going to pop up for the client where you can see here a very simple net promoter score question. How likely are you to refer, here we have Ron Swanson as our attorney, to a friend or a colleague? And so giving client that access to rate their experience on that stage that they just went through, and then giving them the option to actually leave any sort of feedback. Now, with this data that firms may have never had before, we can now look for more opportunities for reviews and referrals. We can now go back to our automations that may have already been created as you were setting up your journey and your practice areas to have messaging based off of net promoter scores. So maybe I can create an automated message based off of NPS and create a rule of, all of my promoters, my 9s and 10s that give me a 9 and 10 in every single stage of the case, or maybe the first, the first 3 stages or all of them, they automatically get a message letting them know, hey, we appreciate the score. Here's my Google business account. Here's my Avo link, my super lawyer link, because we now have the data to back it up. On the flip side, we can say, well, all of my clients that are giving me maybe a 5 or below in any stage of the case automatically gets a message saying, hey, it looks like we weren't able to meet your expectations. What can we do? What's going on? But now we can be that first line of defense, and we can truly have insight on client satisfaction so that we can mine through this data. We can convert the lower scores. We can find out when it happens. We want to celebrate the lower scores because now you have that time to actually go in and change that perspective. But more importantly, we want to strike while the iron's hot.
Well,
right?
Jose, I'd also add on that, interjecting on a low score. We've been doing some research and benchmarking that client attrition, losing the case is a real business problem for a lot of firms. And so again, the idea of not waiting to the end and actually asking early and often gives you that opportunity to change it. And we all know as consumers that if somebody can start out bad but reverse it, that's a great thing. Definitely better than the
and the other magic of this is that you're tracking it at different stages, right? So sometimes law firms aren't hearing about unhappy clients until the very end of their case. And you might have done a fantastic result for that client, but maybe they didn't like their case manager, or their case manager failed them in some way. And now you're going to be able to identify that pattern early and also address any potential employee or staffing issues that you have before their case is wrapped 2 months later, and you start to see that pattern emerge. So it's a very, very exciting feature to have this kind of data throughout the life cycle of a case.
Yeah, and to go along with what you mentioned there, Gabriella, we want to give that firm the access to this insight as well from an executive level dashboard to give the firm an overview of how performance is happening and what performance looks like from a staff member perspective. Now, staff members will have their own scores because they're going to be associated with a case that has net promoter scores, and so we can incentivize paralegals, attorneys. We can maybe track performance, track trends to see, hey, it seems like we're getting lower scores in a certain stage of the case. Maybe I need to change it up a little bit, or maybe add a little bit more detail. So just really giving you this access again, and really this ownership to actually take advantage of this data that you've always had, or that you've never had in this point, in this example, right? Because you're usually waiting until the end. We want to give it to you a lot sooner throughout the case. The referral piece is another big opportunity. We want to give clients access to a nice, easy view of who is essentially working on their case. And we're going to go off of who is essentially assigned in CASEpeer. But this idea that a client can see this Your Team tab, they can see everyone that's working on their case from attorneys and case managers, and comes across a little bit more personable, right? We have the picture, the phone, the email, the bio, and each main attorney of the case is going to have access to this refer button on here. So the client could easily just hit this refer button. It's going to pull all this info into a contact card so that I can send it as a text, as an email, as a note, to really whoever I want. So making that word of mouth even easier, right? Fortifying that word of mouth, which for a lot of firms, that's 30, 40, 50% of their new clients coming in is through word of mouth. And so just making it very simple and straightforward. And we can now use our net promoter score automations to maybe simplify a message based off of reviews. I want to send a message to all of my 8, 9s, and 10s that say, that tells them, hey, we'd love if you refer us to friends and family. And so just giving them more opportunities for that is what's key. The last piece that I really wanted to touch on and really kind of drives this efficiency and just this seamless back and forth with CASEpeer and case status is really being able to message within CASEpeer in itself. I think this is great. I think it's just huge. It's a game changer. Just making it so simple. And obviously, CASEpeer and the team over there, they've been great with working with us through this and making sure that it all looked good. But setting it up so that as we're looking at a case in CASEpeer, using the option just to send a message to case status while we're in the actual case, so that I can send a message to case status. I can send a message to my client. For the sake of this, I'm just gonna put hey there. But sending my message, and then that's it. And then I'm back doing my day-to-day. So centralizing the communication, really eliminating this idea of having to go into different platforms, right? Shuffling back and forth. The client receives the message via the messages tab. They could easily just respond right back and then type their message out. They can add any sort of images or videos or media files or PDFs or documents, but then send their message out, and then that gets actually synced back right into the case notes tab within CASEpeer as well. So keeping it in one location is key, making sure the visibility is there. We want to eliminate this mix of the phone calls, the emails, the text messages. Hopefully none of you all are giving out your personal cell, right? Because then that's when all boundaries are gone and they blow you up, right? But it's having this business encrypted line through the platform. And again, obviously using CASEpeer to house a lot of that information. So messages sync back into case notes, and then the documents are actually going to be syncing back into the documents tab within CASEpeer as well. So really just providing this nice efficiency overall, creating this ultimate experience for your client, and just being able to measure that experience throughout is really how we partner with CASEpeer and really complement each other by having CASEpeer become, again, the main system of handling the cases, but then again, the horsepower that comes with the actual mobile platform. So that's the high level for me. That's kind of the teaser, if you will. Obviously, a lot more features that we can talk about to really help streamline your operational efficiency and increase top line revenue growth. But want to make sure that I'm respectful of time here, so I'll stop sharing.